everyone, welcome back to Allcarnews, and we are here today with this 2006 Mercedes McLaren SLR. And this one is pretty special, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but I'm going to take you guys on a full tour and review of this incredible Grand Touring supercar back from almost 20 years ago now. Let's go dive in. And just check out how cool the SLR is. Pretty much all exploded here with the doors open. You have the incredibly huge carbon fiber hood open, and it's revealing this incredible powertrain. So let's go take a look at this and see why it's so unique. So guys, what do we have here? Well, this is a pretty unique engine. It's exclusive to the SLR McLaren. It's a 5.4 liter supercharged V8, and the way it's mounted is really far back in this chassis. It explains why this hood is so long, and you can see that the engine essentially starts right here. And if you kind of look with your eyes here, move your eye line all the way down to kind of where the front middle of the wheel is, you can see how far back it is from that front axle. So it's a true front mid mounted supercar, and this engine is pretty unique. It's a huge supercharger on it. It spins up to around 23,000 RPM. It's making over 600 horsepower, over 570 pound-feet of torque, paired to a unique 5-speed automatic gearbox, which is a little bit outdated by today's standards, but it still propelled this thing to over 200 miles an hour, 0 to 60 under 3.5 seconds. It was pretty impressive for a vehicle that launched back in 2003. A lot of power as well too. And with all this carbon fiber technology under here, a pretty much carbon fiber body, carbon fiber chassis, they tried to make it as lightweight as they could. It still weighs around 3,800 to 4,000-ish pounds. So not the super lightest vehicle in the world, but how it's kind of set up is to be this super ultra high-speed Grand Tourer, and it's capable of doing it over and over again in a repeated fashion, and it's capable of doing it comfortably with this kind of Mercedes and McLaren engineering behind it. This is also one of the first hand-built V8s from AMG, and I guess this McLaren partnership as well. You can see your little AMG hand-built plaque up front, nice big Mercedes star over here as well with this really unique red accents on the engine as well. It's a beautiful engine bay and a beautiful hood to look at. You can see the exposed carbon fiber weave underneath the hood there, and just hidden right behind this McLaren badge. So you know there's some special engineering going on there. You can see the kind of aero vents and ducts going through here, the heat extractors, as all of this heat shielding up on the hood as well. There's a lot of stuff going on here. And a fun little tidbit on the side is a recommended mobile oil SAE 5W50 oil. Pretty unique oil weight as well. So take a moment to gaze in this engine because I just can't stop staring at it myself. So guys, here it is, the 2006 Mercedes McLaren SLR. And as we all know, this is one of the most iconic Grand Touring supercars of our modern era, and it's gorgeous here in just a simple black paint with these aluminum turbine wheels wrapped around it. And it's just iconic as it is still today. And so what is so special about the Mercedes McLaren SLR if you don't know? Well, this thing was unveiled back in 1999 as a concept vehicle, only to hit production for the 2003 model year. This is maybe a 2006, but design-wise, they're all pretty much very similar for the coupes. And of course, there is the Roadster version and some other variants, and there's even a upgraded package that McLaren has revealed just recently to kind of give you more power and a little bit more aerodynamic upgrades, but I think it's still one of the best looking vehicles in this pure form, pretty much bone stock here. Now, if you don't know much about this car, it was developed by Mercedes and McLaren at the time, and at the time, Mercedes owned around 40% of the McLaren group. And yes, it looks like a Mercedes, it's badged as Mercedes, even though there's McLaren badges on the sides. But McLaren essentially did the entire vehicle from the chassis. A lot of the engineering work is essentially, it is a McLaren. It even was built in England as well at their facility. So it's a really unique blend of a vehicle, and it has a lot of unique components that we see on modern supercars today. Specifically up front, we can see these carbon ceramic brakes. This car can only be had with carbon ceramic brakes. And now it's a pretty common thing we see on a lot of high-performance vehicles. They look really sleek behind these wheels. There's really cool turbine-looking wheels with giant Mercedes calipers painted in silver to match as well. Michelin rubber wrapped around those, and every detail and body panel on this car is really exquisite. All the body panels are essentially carbon fiber reinforced plastic or carbon fiber to help reduce weight as much as they possibly could at the time. And everything you see on here is premium and high tech. A lot of aerodynamic work has been done on the vehicle. You can already see that from up front over here. F1 inspired technology in every way they possibly could at the time, especially from this unique shaped nose all the way up front with the Mercedes star. These really cool fins that will direct air under the hood over here. You can see them, as well as all of the aerodynamics you can see under the front bumper area as well. Really sleek design, and we can even see this design carried over to some other Mercedes as well, such as the smaller, cheaper, and nowhere near as cool SLK Roadster as well. Coming to the side of the SLR is another unique space because you can see how massive this hood really is. This engine is a front mid-mounted engine, so it's pretty much almost like a foot behind the front axle where the front wheel wells are, and that's a really unique trait. It gives that thing a really unique balance and a unique driving experience. You can see how big this space is here where the cabin starts and the front wheel is, and all of this is for cooling to kind of extract hot air from out under the engine bay. Really nice McLaren badge you can see right here, as well as this gigantic aluminum strake on the side here, and it is real aluminum, very solid, cold to the touch. You can see all these veins to allow the hot air to be extracted out of the engine bay, and the exhausts are located right over here up front. They had to do this actually because the floor of the SLR is so flat they couldn't fit them to go all the way out, and it's flat for aerodynamics, so you can kind of get a little bit of a taste of that back here with this absolutely massive rear diffuser that blends straight into the flat floor, which is cool. And you get a peek of those steamrollers of the tires out back. And being a Mercedes, you still have a lot of luxury features such as headlight washers, and of course you still have a trunk out back here. Can't miss the active rear spoiler, which looks incredible when it is in motion. You can change it from the interior by pressing a few different buttons into a test mode, as well as a manual operation mode, or it will kind of deploy itself under heavy braking and under certain conditions to improve rear downforce, which looks absolutely epic, and it makes a pretty cool sound. But again, you still have a trunk back here, as it is a practical grand tour at the end of the day. Let's open that up, and you can see you have a pretty decent amount of space. I would definitely say you'd be able to fit I think a golf club's in here, and you can get a little bit of peek underneath this tray over here of the carbon fiber structure underneath the vehicle. Check that out, and there you'll find some carbon fiber all over this vehicle, which is really nice. And of course, one of the most iconic features of the SLR are its butterfly doors, and they're pretty simple to open. One little weird note is they did make a roadster version. As you can see here though, this is obviously the coupe, and the window is blended in with the door panel, but for some reason the window still dips itself down when you open up the door, because I think they use the same mechanism. So check this out. When I open the door, check the window here, it does a little dip down, but the doors do open automatically with some gas struts, and it looks absolutely epic. And when you open up both doors, it is an absolutely insane looking vehicle with the massive butterflies. Check that out, guys. Now, one of the reasons why this particular SLR is impressive is, well, at the end of the day, it was designed by Gordon Murray. If you don't know who Gordon Murray is, definitely go look him up. He is the one who did the McLaren F1. He now has Gordon Murray Automotive, making the incredible T50, naturally aspirated, raw, lightweight, hardcore V12 super and hypercars. But he designed this vehicle at the end of the day, and he signed it. This is the only SLR McLaren that Gordon Murray has signed. And it was a pretty recent signature. Wasn't when this vehicle was made, but check that out. I think this is definitely a unique piece to the vehicle, as he designed it, and it is the only one that has the signature on it. And with the doors open, you can see the really unique stance of the SLR McLaren. Now, one thing you will note here is the absolutely large width of this side sill here, and that's due to the carbon kind of monocoque style construction of this vehicle. And we also have these really unique carbon backed seats. Well, the whole seats are essentially carbon buckets at the end of the day, and they're angled at a certain position to both give you a comfortable and racing kind of performance-y seating position, which is really cool. Love this gigantic aluminum SLR side sill plate as well. And the dash design is really unique. It kind of incorporates those like side strakes that you can see here into the dash design. Everything is completely wrapped in leather. Checking out the door panels, you can see how everything is wrapped in leather. This whole panel is leather, from the door pulls here to the actual handle here. And it's a really gorgeous looking piece of automotive engineering here. And you can see this really unique area where you have your door handle here to open it from the inside, in aluminum, of course, and you have your window controls here and your seat control, which is sideways. That's really funky, but at least you have power seats. And on the passenger side, you can kind of get a little bit of a better look at this intense leather work. So the entire dash is completely covered in that gorgeous leather. Really cool kind of design where they brought this air vent into the dash as well. Really unique piece there. And you can see, again, that really cool interpretation of these side strakes here, which looks really nice. And this is a really cool way to check out the interior. Here have those two bucket seats there, and it's a pretty wide interior, so you're not kind of cramped on top of each other as well, which I do really like. So it is kind of a proper Grand Tour. Now, getting inside the SLR isn't the easiest process, but it's not the worst thing in the world. You do kind of have to reach over this entire side sill plate here, so you can kind of step your leg in, make sure your knee doesn't hit any of the side stalks, and then you kind of get your other leg in there. Now, once you're inside, you have this really cool commanding cockpit position here. And to close the door, you simply can grab, I would say, either this or this, and just slam it shut. Here, the actuators close the door up, and you're inside the McLaren SLR. Now, like I said before, all those controls are on your left-hand side on this weird little lower panel here. So you can move the seat back like this. You can also kind of tilt it a little bit. It doesn't really tilt that much. There's not much adjustment for these carbon bucket seats, but there's definitely some adjustment for you. And the steering wheel does, I believe, move as well into a few other different positions. It's all old Mercedes switchgear and stalks inside, so it's pretty unique looking and feeling. And of course, to kind of start everything up, you do still have a old Mercedes key, which you do need to put in here. Apologies for the air tag. Popping that in, you can see everything kind of comes to life. Accessory wise, you can see your power steering wheel here. Moving that all the way back so you can get a little bit more room, which is nice. And you can just check out this unique cabin. You're very, very low. You have this incredible position of the hood is so long, it swoops all the way down. You can kind of see those little side strakes up there as well that kind of carry over into the dash design. It is a fantastic interior space. And if you may be wondering, that's not really how you start the vehicle. How you start the vehicle is this little thing right here. So on your gear selector here that controls your 5-speed automatic gearbox, you kind of pop open this aluminum cover here, and you have an engine start stop button, which is just so cool feeling. You really feel like a fighter jet or some kind of like incredible like high performance vehicle starting and stopping this vehicle, which is really nice. And it feels so nice with this aluminum piece right here, very premium feeling. And the sound when you start this thing up, which we'll do in a little bit, sounds absolutely incredible. But I want to take you guys on a little bit more of a further tour of this interior. Now, it's pretty basic in here. There's not too much going on, but you do still have a lot of the same Mercedes features here, like cruise control. Yes, you actually have that in this vehicle. You also have your indicator stalk right here, which is nice. There's like these paddle buttons on the back of the steering wheel to kind of control some of the 5 speeds that you have in this gearbox. Your headlight control here, which is also an aluminum switch, feels very nice to the touch as well. And I just love how everything in here is wrapped in a very nice material. And this is where you can kind of move your rear wing. So if you pop it down to test mode, it will pop up. Kind of see it pop up in the rear mirror there and watch it pop down. That is just such a cool shot. And you can kind of permanently put it up like that. You pop it into this top button here, and this is kind of like the neutral automatic position, which is really cool. I have some vent controls here to kind of make this hotter or colder. You do have some more solid climate control stuff here, but I love how you really can't even access the climate controls unless the gear lever is in drive. And there are those old style Mercedes dials to kind of change your temperature, which don't feel super premium in this vehicle, but at least there's an aluminum plate back there, and this little temperature gauge does pop in and out, which is kind of cool to move around. And it does still, at the end of the day, kind of smell like an older Mercedes in here. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I mean. But it has that leatherish, woody smell to it, which I actually do quite like. And you cannot miss this absolutely large SLR badge on the radio cover here. I'm not going to open it right now because I think it does need to be repaired before this vehicle goes on to a new owner. But behind here is the radio, which is really cool. And it's kind of hidden behind this panel. Let's see if I can open it. Yeah, I don't think it opens right now, but really cool behind there. You have your hazards light here, which I love how this still flashes. A lot of modern cars do that too as well. And your door locks are up here as well. And just check out this really cool design on the dash. Now, there's no necessarily like a glove box or anything here. You do have airbags actually, when you see them branded, embossed into the leather, which is really nice. But instead, your storage will live in here. And I think there's a little bit more storage here as well. So a little bit of storage here. You have a little cubby there, as well as a cigarette lighter, which is really cool. And of course, wrapped in leather. And back here, you have some more storage. Ignore the rainbow wire right now. They're replacing that. But there's actually a phone that lives in here. And check that out. Mercedes branded Motorola phone. And it lives right in this center console right here. It sits here, charges. Pretty cool stuff. and it kind of clips into place. I think this cable is going to be replaced, so don't bother looking at that, but that's a pretty cool touch there. And of course, this whole thing is wrapped in leather as well. You can also see those little accents of those side strakes as well up there. I think there's another piece of storage up here. And of course, we have the trunk as well. So you do have a decent amount of storage in here, but it's a little bit funky of how they're doing it. The steering wheel itself isn't the most sporty looking thing, I would have to say. It is leather wrapped. You have a very thin spoke, actually. And you can see some controls on here to control some things. Some of these menus up here, you can see your tire pressures, you can see your miles on here, some service information and such. You can kind of scroll through different screens. You have control your phone and volume stuff here, and of course the horn is typical on that. But very interesting steering wheel design. I do like these gauges, really nice. You can see the McLaren logos on both of the tachometer and the speedometer, which is really cool. Fuel gauge and of course the temperature gauge, which is really nice as well. But it's a pretty basic cabin at the end of the day. We kind of have this micro suede style headliner as well with some really nice stitching on it, opening up these little mirrors. There are no light, or there's a light up there, it might be out for now. This one does working, which looks pretty cool. Of course, center lighting, dome lighting as well. Very bright, very nice. Some SOS buttons, a huge rear mirror with, it looks like you have home link still in here as well. So a lot of modern creature comforts in here for a 2006 vehicle, which is pretty impressive. Even SRS airbags over here as well. And of course on your steering wheel. So a lot of cool modern features here. I do like the SLR logo as well here. So you have a lot of SLR badges on the vehicle. A little bit of some controls here as well. So there's controls all over the place in this vehicle that are pretty unique to it as well. And I think it's a really unique touch. And again, hopping out is pretty easy. You just kind of take the key out, make sure the vehicle is off, pull it out. Old style Mercedes key. And then to get out, it's a little bit of that funky operation of kind of lifting the aluminum door handle towards you. The door will pop up, open. You can hop out fairly easily. And that's it. And that is the interior of the SLR McLaren.